is facing attempted murder charges after a standoff with police in a quiet Scarborough neighborhood late last night.
This was an extremely reckless and overtly brazen attempt to do serious bodily harm to police officers.
We were just unsure what the heck was going on.
Residents were left on edge for several hours as police negotiated with the suspect who allegedly shot at officers from his home. We'll take you through what happened. Plus,
there are still so many issues that need to be addressed, such as wages and services.
Contract talks between the province and tens of thousands of its education workers break down. Could a strike be coming? And
first, it doesn't solve congestion. Second, it has a huge cost on the environment.
One of the city's top contenders for mayor makes his case for tearing down part of the Gardiner, saying if elected, he will replace it with a boulevard. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. We are learning more about a tense standoff with police in a Scarborough neighborhood late last night. A man is now facing 3 counts of attempted murder after shooting at officers when they tried to arrest him at his home. As Meg Roberts reports, neighbors were left on edge for hours as police negotiated with the suspect.
This is a quiet and nice area.
But last night, the sounds of gunshots rang out on Shenley Road. Police say undercover officers showed up to this Scarborough house to arrest 35-year-old Thomas James McMahon for allegedly firing a gun back in March. Instead, officers were met with bullets.
Because we do have the cameras outside, we could kind of keep an eye on what was going on, so it was interesting but scary at the same time.
Police say when the suspect saw police outside his home, he ran, turning around to fire multiple rounds at officers with a handgun. As police were taking cover, he was able to get back inside the house where he shot at officers again from a side door. We spoke to a neighbor who did not want to go on camera, but she said 11 of those bullets shot by the suspect hit her home here behind me. 2 of those managed to get inside, all while she was laying on her living room floor.
I want to emphasize how fortunate we are that none of our officers were struck by gunfire during last night's events.
No one was injured or worse in last night's events. Police told media today no officers shot back at the suspect last night and were able to arrest McMahon after hours of negotiating. This incident comes after the death of 4 Ontario officers in just over a month.
This is not a Netflix show. Our members are going out and doing their job in the face of this adversity, notwithstanding it's front and center because of the recent events.
Police say while the accused is now in custody, investigators are looking for anyone with information or video footage about this incident that happened last night or the original firearms investigation, which happened on March 17th of this year on Woody Crest Avenue, just off the Danforth. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Scarborough.
A woman suffered critical injuries after she was stabbed near an East Danforth elementary school early this morning. Police say a group of people were gathered behind Gledhill Public School in the area of Danforth Avenue and Patricia Drive when a verbal argument turned physical and the woman was stabbed. Now, this happened around 5 a.m. Police say the woman managed to make her way down the street to a nearby gas station and police were called. Now, students who attend Gledhill were relocated to a nearby middle school during the investigation this morning. Police have arrested a 14-year-old in connection with a taxi scam. Now, on Monday, we told you about a woman who nearly fell victim to the scheme. Saja Kilani says she was flagged down by a young boy who asked for help paying his cab fare, claiming the driver wouldn't accept cash. Now, she agreed and handed over her debit card to the taxi driver. However, the driver handed her back a different card. Now, police say they arrested a 14-year-old after someone else reported being scammed by a taxi in the Markham and Lawrence area this week. The teen has been charged with possession of the proceeds of crime over $5,000. An early morning crash on the 401 East led to an hours-long traffic nightmare for drivers in the West End.
This dump box came off of the truck that's just down the road. It was traveling Highway 401 eastbound express lanes, approaching Mavis Road here. The box obviously lifted when it hit this pedestrian overpass.
The truck had just emptied a load at a nearby construction site when the driver drove away with the box still raised. The overpass was damaged and engineers had to be called in to inspect it. While all that was going on, a separate 3-car crash happened right next to where the truck hit the overpass. Police saying that crash was caused by driver inattention. Fortunately, there were no injuries in either incident, and the lanes reopened around 2:30 this afternoon. The driver of the dump truck is now facing charges. Thousands of police officers from across Canada and the U.S. are expected at a funeral tomorrow in Barrie for 2 police constables killed in the line of duty. Today, private visitations were held at 2 separate funeral homes for Constables Morgan Russell and Devin Northrup. They were shot and killed 8 days ago while responding to a call at a home in Innisfil, north of Toronto. Tomorrow's funeral is not open to the public, but people are invited to pay their respects along the procession route. The union representing school support workers says 3 days of mediated contract talks with the province brought almost no progress. CUPE represents 5,000 staff, including janitors, early childhood educators, and administrative staff. Now, both sides will be back at the table on November 1st, but as Lorenda Redicott reports, that's just days before workers are in legal strike position.
I really think it's on the government to come to the table and start talking, not holding us in a room, start talking.
The union president says after 2.5 days of contract talks with the government using a mediator, they made almost no progress.
There are still so many issues that need to be addressed, including, the big substantial items such as wages and services that this government doesn't seem interested in talking about.
This CUPE union represents school support workers. It'll meet again with the government November 1st. 2 days later, November 3rd, they'll be in a legal strike position. Cuts hurt kids! Cuts hurt kids! 3 years ago, during the last contract talks, the union first worked to rule. Then, a day before a planned strike, the 2 sides reached a deal.
We tried work to rule with this government, and it meant nothing to them. In fact, it was only when we went to a full withdrawal of services in 2019, when we were moving towards that we were actually able to get them to come and truly negotiate at the table.
CUPE wants wage increases of almost 12%. It says the average salary for its members is $39,000 a year. The government is offering an extra 2% a year for those making less than $40,000, 1.25% for others. In a statement, Education Minister Stephen Lecce says Ontario's government has a reasonable offer that increases salaries for all workers while protecting a very generous pension and benefit package. Parents can rest assured this government will not waver in its resolve to keep all students in class where they belong. The education critic for the Liberal Party accused Premier Ford and Stephen Lecce of forcing negotiations to take a step backwards. So could a full strike happen in early November if the next round of talks don't go well?
It could be very possible.
However, the union is required to provide 5 days' notice before any job action, meaning kids and parents will have notice. Lorenda Redicott, CBC News, Toronto.
And a possible GO Transit strike is looming. The union representing GO bus drivers and other employees, including station attendants and maintenance workers, has voted to strike if a deal isn't reached with Metrolinx by the end of this month. Negotiations began back in April, and members have been without a contract since June 1st. Tyler Cheese has the latest.
GO Transit bus drivers and other employees could be going on strike starting October 31st. Their union says it's more than 2,000 members voted in favor of the strike deadline.
Ultimately, we're hoping not to go there, but if we have to, we will.
Metrolinx says it has agreed to 67 different improvements to the collective agreement, but one issue remains unresolved.
What we've heard from Metrolinx at the table since day one is they have no intent of contracting out our jobs. We're okay with having a letter of commitment stand outside of the collective agreement for the duration that just basically says in writing what they've been telling us. We're just saying that the jobs that we currently do, we want to continue doing 10 years down the road.
For its part, Metrolinx says it believes an agreement is achievable before the strike deadline.
We're working really hard to get a deal in place and do that at the bargaining table, because ultimately we think that's the best way to avoid any potential disruption to our customers.
He says if a strike does occur, GO trains and the UP Express train will keep running.
We believe that any potential service disruption is completely avoidable.
Some say the provincial government could prevent the strike by repealing Bill 124, which limits pay increases for some public sector workers.
It's up to Premier Ford to unlock the funds from the province and pay people appropriately and make sure that the employer in this case doesn't contract out work, which is a real legitimate concern.
But the transit union says Bill 124 isn't really in play at the bargaining table. They just want the public to understand what they're asking for.
Our frontline employees have been coming to work throughout a pandemic. When we were locked down, we were the ones taking the doctors, the nurses to work. They did the job that was expected of them. They did it very well, and we're just looking for protections.
A meeting between the union and Metrolinx is set for tomorrow. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Dahlia Ashby joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Dahlia, another gray day, and you can really start to feel that fall chill this week.
That's right, Caldo. We've been seeing a lot of warmer temperatures this fall, but as of lately, it was more so on the cooler side, and we're going to see more of that overnight tonight. Earlier today, it was not the night to be out at Jurassic Park, so good thing everybody was inside watching the game because it's just too chilly. The daytime high in Toronto today, 9 degrees. Sarnia 6 degrees, and a little cooler out in Kingston, 8 degrees as well. Now there is that low pressure system moving in across the province, and here across the GTA we're seeing cloudy conditions and also some rainy conditions and windy conditions as well. So we'll be seeing winds gusting up to 39 kilometers an hour and increasing overnight to 47 kilometers an hour, and that will really go on until 8 a.m. and then even until Thursday around 7 p.m. we could see winds really picking up and being 43 kilometers an hour. So we'll have some chilly and wet conditions tomorrow and windy as well. So you might want to bundle up and have an umbrella with you. Tonight, though, temperatures will drop to a low 3 degrees. We're going to be seeing a mixture of flurries, rain. So just be careful if you're out on the roads, and tomorrow on your commute to work as well, because it could be a slippery one out on the roads. And then a high of 9 degrees. And like I said, a windy one as well. Kelda?
Thanks so much, Dahlia. The Raptors opening up their season in front of a home crowd at Scotiabank Arena tonight.
Siakam is down. Here's Fred. Bucket and book it.
The Raps facing the Cleveland Cavaliers for Game 1, and this one was a nail-biter until the end. But the resilient Raps came back in the fourth to win 108-105. The team has the same core group that got them into the playoffs last year, including Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, and the NBA's reigning Rookie of the Year, Scotty Barnes. The Raptors head to Brooklyn for their next game on Friday. One of the top candidates for mayor says it's time to get rid of the Gardiner Expressway. Gil Penalosa says the current elevated expressway cuts off the valuable waterfront, and John Tory's decision to keep it is, quote, a fiasco. As Alicia Son explains, Penalosa is vowing to tear it down and build a boulevard instead.
Should Toronto revisit the option to tear down the Gardiner Expressway?
I think it's time.
So does mayoral candidate Gil Penalosa.
No civilized cities are doing elevated highways.
Penalosa says the aging infrastructure should be leveled.
We do a boulevard with sidewalks, protected bikeways, trees, benches.
It comes up every election year, and sometimes in between when a chunk of it falls onto a car, for example. In 2015, Mayor John Tory and Council voted to rebuild a section of the easternmost stretch of the Gardiner at the DVP. It was deemed the hybrid option, in that it's still an elevated highway, but shifted over, freeing up valuable land below to be developed into neighborhoods with bike lanes and park space. But as Penalosa points out,
in the case of the Gardiner East, it has not been contracted, it has not been tendered, it has not even been designed, and the construction is supposed to start in 2026. So let's ask everybody, let's ask the citizens.
Okay.
It's a terrible blight, it's eyesore.
While some would love to say goodbye, Gardiner,
late at night they're using as a racetrack.
Others think the idea is
Oh, it's an absolute disaster. You can already see what's going on over here with these streets. Every day there's traffic in Toronto, and that would just make it even worse.
Are you okay to deal with the traffic nightmare that it would be to tear it down?
I think that part would be the most unsettling, but I mean, I think we'll all figure it out over time.
Today, I ran into a group of visiting civil engineers from Sweden, and they tell me the Gardiner became an unexpected tourist attraction.
The idea is that it's going to be more expensive in the long run just to try to maintain it.
We went to it and looked at it, and one of our guys he's a constructor, and we were looking at the status of the concrete and the reinforcement inside, and it really is. You're not allowed to say that word in TV, but it's not in a good state.
While Penalosa says the Gardiner as we know it has got to go, his biggest competition, Mayor John Tory, says he's not changing course. A spokesperson for his re-election campaign says while others attempt to reopen almost decade-old debates, the mayor is focused on moving Toronto forward. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. For the first time in over 20 years, there won't be a member of the Ford family on the ballot in Etobicoke North. And the open race in the ward has drawn 16 candidates, all vying for city council, including one veteran civic politician hoping to make a comeback. CBC Toronto's municipal affairs reporter Sean Jeffords has the details.
To see you.
Former Toronto City Councillor Vincent Crisanti and his team have been busy as Election Day approaches, door knocking and putting up signs across this large North Toronto ward.
Oh, good afternoon.
Crisanti is not the incumbent in this race, but he is stressing his experience to residents.
Thank you for spreading the word, and I'm honored to, come back and serve you again. Yeah. So watch for those results on October 24th. I'll be here for you. Okay? All right.
After years of being represented by Rob and Doug Ford, Etobicoke North was merged with a neighboring ward in 2018 when council was cut in half. It forced an election battle between Crisanti and Michael Ford, who won that race. But now that Ford has moved on to Queen's Park, Crisanti is running on a platform focused on community safety, job growth, and building housing.
I'm very passionate about serving this community. I have unfinished business that I want to continue to work on, and so here I am. So people are working.
But he faces a challenge from candidate Charles Osude, who has earned high-profile endorsements from the Toronto and York Region Labour Council and Progress Toronto. He's campaigning on Tanbridge Crescent, where he says residents routinely face long waits for transit. He says if elected, he'll bolster transit services.
A lot of people here, they live here, but they don't work here, right? They got to commute sometimes an hour away to jobs. Oftentimes those jobs don't pay a lot, so they got to run from that job to another job in another part of the city.
Down the street, Dave Narang is at work on his grassroots campaign. He says residents are frustrated with the status quo and want change.
The so-called Ford Nation has screwed up the ward where their base is. So this ward has been totally ignored, and you can see yourself the kind of infrastructure, the roads and parks we have.
Without a Ford in the race for City Council and so many candidates in this ward, this will be one to watch on election night. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
A live shot of the Toronto skyline, cloudy with some showers this evening. Light rain will continue overnight. Currently, it is 5 degrees in the city. Let's go back to Dahlia now with a more detailed look at your forecast. And Dahlia, we should brace ourselves for another cool and wet one tomorrow.
That's right, Kelda. Some cooler temperatures as well tomorrow, and some slushy conditions as well. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel as we head into the weekend, which we'll get into in just a second. First, let's talk about those daytime highs across the province. What we have here is a cold air stream moving in, and that's what's giving us those cooler temperatures, as we can see here in Toronto, 7 degrees. And when we take a look at Ottawa, it's 5 degrees. So really, it's impacting most of Ontario, giving us those cooler temperatures, especially tonight. Temperatures will drop, and even in some areas near the GTA. So if we're talking about Cottage Country, Caledon, any of those areas, there's even a snow warning that's in effect as well, some light snow there. So just if you have any crops or anything like that, just make sure you check up on him and see if it's okay. What's ahead? Well, as you can see here, like we're talking about, there's a mixture of flurries and rain. That's what that pink and blue signifies. We're going to be seeing more of that overnight tonight and tomorrow. For most of the day, actually, we're going to see that mixture of wet snow, and that will be moving moving in. Until 7 o'clock, it'll start to calm down and things will start to clear up as we head into Friday. Some clearer conditions, a little bit of a high pressure system, and some warmer temperatures ahead, which we haven't seen in a while because we've been experiencing those low conditions, especially overnight. I mean, in Toronto, tonight it's going to drop to 3 degrees, a little cooler out in Markham, Mississauga, and Oshawa, 2 degrees. Again, there's that mixture of flurries and rain. We're nearing that freezing temperature, and so really cooler temperatures is what we've been seeing. Tomorrow, like we said, that freezing rain, or sorry, frost and rain as well. And then Friday, Saturday, as we head off and we kick off the weekend back up to those double digits for the daytime high, feeling a lot warmer, almost summer-like conditions compared to what we were experiencing today and even the past few days. And then Sunday, even, it gets just warmer. Look at that, 17 degrees and 18 degrees as we head into your work week on Monday. Kelda?
Thanks so much, Dahlia. Since 2019, Accent on Toronto returned to the Danforth Music Hall for its 20th anniversary.
Well, it's been a long time since we've gone out during the pandemic, and we do like to go to comedy shows. It's a tradition of ours, and this is something we've been looking forward to since before the pandemic, so really excited to be here.
I heard it on the radio and podcast many years in a row. Never been. Tonight's the night.
Is it the first time?
First time.
The night of comedy put on by CBC Toronto was on hiatus during the pandemic, but made its triumphant return tonight. Hosted by Ali Hassan, attendees were treated to the comedic stylings of Martha Chavez, Ron Jossel, Evan Carter, and more.
I have an accent and I am from Toronto, and I thought this speaks about me.
This is the 20th anniversary. I did the first one, so I was exactly 3 years old.
Yes.
It's great to be with these fine comics, and you know, I'm a Torontonian, born in Toronto. I like to say more like North York, but just, you know what, this is always a fun show.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.